upon which I sit, meet, and work and engage with all of you is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people of Abequate, or Prince Edward Island. And I ask that as an act of reconciliation with our Indigenous people around the world, that you, for yourselves, take a moment to acknowledge the caretakers of the land upon which you sit, past, present, and future. Team Trini-Veni is a large and diverse group of people from around the globe. I'd like to introduce you to those people who will be participating in this panel today. I believe we have some pictures of them.
Yes, we do. Let me share screen here.
So first off, I'd like to introduce Rosalind George, who is the president of Cashew Gardens, a Trinidad-based nonprofit community builder and peace builder, and she's won many awards for her community development and peace building. Joining her will be Belinda Paris, a member, the secretary of Cashew Gardens staff. I'd also like to introduce Lana, or Svetlana Liansky, a Venezuelan living in Trinidad, a young entrepreneur and women's rights activist in her new home country. Also no stranger to all of you is Martin, Scott Martin, RPF from Chula again, and Global Partnerships Manager at Mediators Beyond Borders International. Martin's a social entrepreneur and landscape architect turned peace builder, and has led many community dialogue trainings internationally for over the past decade. Charlie Allen is also on our team, and he's a Rotary Peace Fellow, a member of the Rotary Club of Sydney, Australia, Director of Partnerships with the Institute for Economics and Peace, and he's joining us in these early morning hours from Australia. Catherine Ali is from Trinidad, but joining us from Ireland, where she has become COVID stranded. Catherine is a co-founder of the NGO Covenants House with myself and a consultant in insight applications for leadership, communication, and conflict transformation. Today, you're going to hear from all of these Trini-Veni team members. So now I'm going to invite all of you to introduce yourselves by writing in the chat. We'd like you to share your name and what perspective or experience you bring to this discussion of partnerships and community building and social cohesion. So take a moment to do that. As well, as we go along, if you have any questions, please put those in the chat. We'll be monitoring that, and we'll have time, hopefully at the end, to address those questions.
Martin. Susan, sorry for the interruption. Martin, so whatever you want to do, I'm here, the interpreter.
Maybe Martin can
figure something out. Sorry, Susan.
That. No problem.
Yeah, I was at a different session that ended late, and I didn't realize, so I came in late for that reason. But I'm here now if needed.
No problem. We're anything but if we're anything, we're flexible.
Excellent.
And very forgiving. Let's rather than stop it, let's see how it goes. And I don't think we have too many Spanish-only speakers on the call, at least.
Okay, that's excellent. So yeah, maybe that's it.
Okay, yeah. So we'll play it by ear. There's only the one part that maybe you can help with translation that will be in Spanish, and you can help with the English translation on that, and it can be consecutive. It should be fine.
I'll be here then. All right.
Thank you so much.
So welcome and thank you. Yes. So now I'd like to share the agenda for our presentation. First on the agenda, I'll give a brief history and background of the project. And then Rosalind and Bernadine will share the story of Cashew Gardens and the community in Chaguanas, Trinidad. Lana will share her story as a Venezuelan asylum seeker living in Trinidad. Martin and Charlie will speak about the work that MBBI and IEP bring to the project. And Catherine will expand on the importance of sharing stories and lead us all into a breakout room exercise where you are encouraged to be curious and inquisitive. So in 2019, Catherine Ali and I founded the NGO, as I mentioned, Governance House, which promotes and trains in the insight approach to conflict transformation globally. This approach seeks to transform relationships in conflict through curiosity, dialogue, and learning. Later that year, we were sent a call for proposals for an initiative called Better Together, or Juntos es Mejor. And the goal of this initiative was to bring Venezuelan refugees together with the communities to which they had migrated across Latin America through projects which would be sustainable and replicable, and which Venezuelans hopefully in the future could replicate should they return home to Venezuela. So Catherine and I began to build a proposal, and we began to build a team. We identified principles that would be important to the project and would increase the likelihood that that project would be successful. Our project design was informed by an asset-based community development model and integrated the principles of facilitated community dialogue and storytelling, conflicts transformation, and peace building. So as I mentioned, Catherine and I are both trained in a specific approach to conflict transformation, as well as facilitating community conversations. And as well as many of you know, I've also been trained as a peace activator with IEP. As we built a project team, we asked ourselves, so who else do we need on the team? What knowledge and skills do we need on the team? And whose stories do we need to be part of our project development? So first of all, we needed and wanted a partner with we needed to partner with a local Trinidadian NGO that demonstrated success in community building and could provide infrastructure skills and human resources in support of our project ideas and goals. We were very excited to connect with Rosalind George, who Catherine had contact with before, and her amazing team at Cashew Gardens. As you're going to hear a little bit later, these women are experts in project design, project implementation, and the issues facing migrants and Trinidadians in their country. We also reached out to other Rotary Peace Fellows, including Maria Julia Morea and Pamela Huerta, and to Canadian Venezuelan agricultural specialist, who is a good friend of mine, Maria Rodriguez, all of whom offered diverse expertise, ideas, and time to help us build a great project. But we soon realized that what we were imagining and creating and building was a much bigger project than the funders of Better Together initiative were willing to pay. So we thought we had something really that would fit really, really well into the mandate and area focus of Rotary International, and concluded that Rotary was the obvious partner for us. So we established a relationship with a local Rotary club in Chaguanas, and quickly began to meet with them and bring them on board as part of the team. So from the beginning, we designed this project to be community driven and informed by proven peace building principles. So to this end, I reached out to my fellow Rotary Peace Fellows, Charlie and Martin, as I knew that what they and their organizations they work with could offer is key to the goal of this project to build social cohesion and economic security embedded in peace building principles. They're going to be talking more about this, but we think that this project is the first to build on these partnerships, the important international partnerships that Rotary has with both of these organizations, and that the partnerships with strong local organizations such as Cashew Gardens and local and international Rotarians will indeed help us to achieve our goals. I'm going to be very briefly talk about the project. If you want to know more about it, we do have a matching grant, and we'll put that number in the chat, and you'll see it elsewhere in the presentations. So very briefly, the project will identify the assets the Venezuelan and Trinidadian communities bring. It will train community members and community partners in the pillars of positive peace, dialogue, and conflict transformation. It will provide space for cultural and narrative sharing, and provide infrastructure, time, and space for the development of a collaborative business plan based in agriculture. The goals and objectives, as I've said, are increased social cohesion and increased economic security through entrepreneurship. We have a larger team than you see here today, We couldn't bring them all on the call, and we meet regularly and are moving forward planfully to implement this project. We come from around the world. We come not only with our knowledge and our experience, but with our hearts, our curiosity, and our stories. So today we're bringing those hearts, minds, and stories together to share with you as we continue to grow our community. So it's my pleasure now to pass it on to the amazing Rosalind George to give you a little bit of a look into Cashew Gardens. So Rosalind.
Cashew Gardens is a rural community situated. Our first project was the construction of.
Welcome to Cashew Gardens.
Cashew Gardens is a rural community situated in central Trinidad. To keep the cost of the land to a minimum, the community was developed with very basic infrastructure. Our first project was the construction of a community garden, as we recognized that in order to build a sustainable community, we needed a constant source of income. The income from the garden provided the funding that we needed to construct our own community center, which would become our hub for the meeting of the minds for future development. At our center, we were able to offer homework assistance to our community children, as poverty and other family constraints affected their academic development. We also catered for training our adults in employable skills and even trained our senior citizens in computer literacy. We were able to successfully manage our projects, won awards, and gain the trust of funding institutions.
We, the Cashew Gardens Recycling Program, has been involved in this project for the last 5 years.
Some of our successful initiatives include our community recycling program, our community composting, and our cassava and sweet potato project. As a community, our start was rough. However, through dedication and sheer determination, we were able to rise above our challenges. And although we have a long way to go, we feel empowered to finish the journey now. You can understand, therefore, why we can identify with the Venezuelan community, as we also felt abandoned and isolated in our own country by our own government and had to empower ourselves in order to survive our challenges. The Cashew Gardens community believes that working with Rotary International, MBBI, IEP and the Venezuelan refugee community, we can create a model project that will assist our closest neighbors. Every day, people risk their lives and that of their children. They get on boats and cross the high seas seeking refuge in an unknown island that is 178 times smaller than their own country. Although we are so close in proximity to each other, Trinidadians do not know very much about the Venezuelan people and their culture, and therefore this has created a lot of anxiety when they started arriving in this country. They were therefore given an unceremonious welcome to our shores. What this project seeks to do is to create an opportunity for us to grow as a community, an opportunity where two cultures can combine and learn from each other. With the guidance of the experts from the MBBI and IEP, who designed a peace module specifically to suit our needs, we are willing to host this program in the Cashew Gardens community. We believe through our years of trials and successes, we are poised to manage this process and have a lot to offer to bring about a meaningful result to this confusion. Through this project, we will create awareness, manage the conflict, as well as change the narrative of the Trinidadian population while accommodating our neighbors and empowering them to stay afloat amidst their challenges. Remember, Pledge your support to our global grant. Visit www.matchinggrants.org/global and search for grant number G2683. Support our Growing Together project. Thank you.
Hi, good day, everyone. Can you all hear me? Good afternoon.
Yeah, we can hear you well. Thank you, Bernadine.
Okay, great, thank you. Hi, good day. My name is Belinda Paris, and I'm the current secretary of the Cashew Gardens Community Council. Now, as a very active young adult, it has truly been a privilege being a part of such a hard-working group. I have been involved in peace-building activities since 2016, when I became a part of the Cashew Gardens team. Personally, my self-esteem has been boosted a lot. I have become more confident, making better life decisions, sharing my experience with my peers, and being a part of this movement continuously gives me the urge to motivate and inspire youth to get involved in peace building in order to make the world a better place. I see my role as being that gap between young adults and the older generation, because at this point in my life, I am able to fit into both groups, and I understand both points of views, being the constant struggle to be accepted by the older generation and the struggle of understanding the youths and their challenges. In my opinion, without youth involvement, continuation of peace building work tends to get lost or become history as the older generation phases out. So we need to bridge that gap. For the future, I foresee a world where peace building is everyone's business. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm wondering if we can if Lana, would you like to go next?
Of course. Hello, everyone. Before I give my presentation, I want to say some words, right? I came to Trinidad in 2017, right? In October, maybe. And I have a bad situation, and I escaped from that situation in maybe in 2018 June, right? I want to say this because I just begin to speak English maybe between 2018 and 2019, and for me it's a really challenge. Try to speak, try to read, try to everything, right? For the reason in this moment I will read my story or a small part of me in Spanish. But the point to me explaining this is because so many people outside, so many people behind me, they don't speak English. And I get lucky because I learned how to speak English because I have friends and have maybe people who really care about me and try to teach me how to speak. So saying that, I will read something in Spanish. I don't know who is the person who will be translated. So let's just do it, right? We are here for that.
Un segundo, Lana, porque no está habilitada todavía la traducción. Entonces quiero preguntar a Martín cómo lo quiere hacer. ¿Quiere dar las instrucciones a las personas?
No sé no, creo que está bien si, bueno, Lana, si puedes hacer una pausa y podemos hacer como consecutivo. Es más fácil.
Yeah, no problem.
¿Sí?
Yes, of course. I know how this works.
Gracias.
Hola a todos. Soy Svetlana Liansky y tengo 36 años de edad.
Hello everyone, I'm Svetlana Lansky and I'm 32 years old.
Soy merideña de pura cepa.
¿Puedes repetir eso, Lana? Porque no sé de dónde eres.
Soy de Mérida, de pura cepa.
Okay, I'm a purebred Meridan. Mérida.
Soy una inmigrante orgullosa de sus raíces rusas y de mi país natal, Venezuela.
So I'm a proud immigrant and proud of my roots, and also a Venezuelan.
Hoy estoy aquí mostrando mi cara porque yo soy la cara de miles de mujeres que tuvieron que salir de su país.
I am the face of thousands of women who had to leave their country behind,
Dejando todo atrás en busca de una mejor vida y mejores oportunidades para su familia.
leaving everything behind, looking for a better life for them and their families.
Nací en un país donde todo abundaba,
I was born in a country with abundance,
en una ciudad cubierta de montañas que a veces se vestía de novias,
in a city covered, surrounded by mountains, who had like white wedding dresses part of the year
para regalarnos la mejor vista y el mejor clima.
to give us the best view and the best weather.
Un olor a café recién hecho por la mañana,
Just made coffee in the morning, the smell of that freshly made coffee,
una riqueza natural desconocida.
and unknown natural riches.
Pero después de algunos años más tarde,
A few years later,
viví en un país maltratado y marginado
I lived in a maltreated and imagined country
por un sistema político desequilibrado
by an imbalanced political system
que nos llevó al abismo de tener que abandonarlo.
who took us to the abyss of having to leave this country behind.
Antes de la explotación del petróleo en Venezuela,
Before oil exploitation in Venezuela,
nosotros fuimos un país exportador de productos agrícolas,
we exported agricultural produce.
café, cacao, azúcar, etc.
Like coffee, cacao, sugar, and others.
La agricultura llegó a representar el 5% del Producto Interno Bruto.
Agriculture came to be 5% of our gross domestic product.
Pero al pasar de los años ya no podíamos producir
But after a few years, we couldn't produce anymore,
ni el 20% de los productos agrícolas para poder mantener a la población interna.
not even 20% of the produce that was needed to feed our internal population.
Con esto y la falta de productos, la hambruna se apoderó de nuestras casas.
With this, famine came over all our homes,
De nuestras vidas.
our lives.
Luchar para comer se había convertido en el pan de cada día.
Fighting in order to be able to eat was our everyday life.
Sobrevivir para no morir en la lucha era la esperanza de todos.
Surviving, just surviving in order not to die in the fight was the hope of everyone.
Una entrevista telefónica vía WhatsApp.
¿Puedes repetir eso, Lana?
Una entrevista telefónica vía WhatsApp.
A telephone interview through WhatsApp
Ya. En un idioma desconocido.
in an unknown language.
Una promesa de hacer realidad mis sueños rotos y truncados.
A promise to have my dreams come true.
Mi pasaporte en mano.
My passport on my hand.
Una mentira.
A lie.
Así comenzó mi nueva aventura de ser inmigrante en esta isla.
That's how the adventure of becoming an immigrant in this island started.
Sabía que comenzar con una mentira no era la mejor alternativa,
I knew that starting out with a lie was not the best alternative,
pero realmente yo no tenía salida.
but I had no other choice.
El tenerme bajo contrato hizo que me dieran horas excesivas de trabajo y muchos maltratos.
Because I was under a contract, I was given excessive extra hours to work and a lot of maltreatment.
Mi vida cambió en el momento en el que alguien decidió creer en mí.
But my life changed the moment someone decided to believe in me.
Y es un libro de vida que comencé a reescribir.
And so I started rewriting the book of my life then.
Desde el momento en que proyectos como estos salieron a la luz en la comunidad migrante.
When projects like this one came out in the migrating community at that time.
Proyectos como estos cambiaron mi vida
Projects as this one changed my life.
y me dieron una excelente oportunidad de demostrar
They gave me an excellent opportunity to demonstrate
mejor que aunque yo soy vulnerable en muchos aspectos, también soy capaz de superar obstáculos que la migración te da.
that even though I'm vulnerable in many areas, I was also capable of overcoming many obstacles that migration places in your path.
Proyectos como este me devolvieron la dignidad
Projects such as this one restored my dignity
y la confianza que había perdido al momento de emigrar.
and the confidence that I had lost at the time of immigration.
Proyectos como este me dieron una segunda oportunidad.
Projects such as this gave me a second opportunity.
Me empoderaron a tal punto que ahora ayudo a otras mujeres para que puedan reencontrarse a ellas mismas mientras recuperan su confianza.
Empowered me to the point where I can help other women to recover their self-confidence as well and overcome obstacles.
Gracias a estos proyectos en donde el punto principal es la integración,
Thanks to projects such as this one, where integration is the main focus,
estos ayudan significativamente a la población migrante
these help meaningfully the migrating population
a integrarnos un poco más,
to become more integrated,
a entender un poco más la cultura,
understand the culture better,
sus costumbres
the customs,
y lo más importante, su población.
and more than anything, its population.
Adicional, nos ayuda a mejorar y expandir nuestro conocimiento en el idioma inglés.
We also learn and expand our English capability.
Un 92% de la población migrante en Trinidad dice que necesita ayuda con el idioma, desde hablar hasta mejorarlo.
92% of the migrating population in Trinidad needs help with English, speaking and writing.
La falta de habilidades para hablar inglés es una gran barrera que les impide obtener trabajos.
Lack of ability to speak English is a great barrier when they want to get a job.
Muchos de nosotros hemos sido instrumentos de aprendizaje.
Many of us have been learning
Y ayudamos a otros migrantes expandiendo nuestros conocimientos en la comunidad.
We have been tools for learning, helping other migrants to learn. So we have been able to provide help in learning to them through us.
Una de las ventajas de trabajar con la diversidad es que hay una variedad de perspectivas.
One of the advantages of working with the university is that we have a variety of perspectives,
Aumento de la creatividad.
increasing creativity.
Siempre habrá una productividad incrementada y ayudamos a tener un buen y mayor impacto global.
We have more productivity and we can have a greater global impact
En el mundo humanitario,
in the humanitarian world,
ofreciéndole una oportunidad a migrantes.
offering an opportunity to migrants.
Migrantes como yo, que tuvimos que salir corriendo de nuestras casas para poder ofrecerle una vida mejor a nuestras familias.
Migrants such as myself who had to leave our homes behind to hope for a better life for ourselves and our families.
Nosotros los venezolanos, como resilientes que somos,
Venezuelans, as resilient as we are,
nos hemos adaptado a través de lo largo de nuestra historia
had adapted throughout our history
como migrantes a muchísimos cambios en nuestras vidas,
as migrants to many changes in our lives,
lo que nos hace seres humanos adaptables y flexibles a los cambios.
which makes us adaptable to changes.
Ofrecemos nuestro sentido de pertenencia para todo lo que hacemos y trabajamos.
We offer our sense of belonging to everything we do.
Somos mano de obra preparada y con muchas ganas de trabajar.
We are a qualified workforce wanting to work well.
Dice la experiencia internacional que por lo general los inmigrantes
¿Quieres hacer el enunciado completo? Lana,
Yes,
la idea
yes,
completa,
yeah.
ya va a ser un poquito más fácil y fluido. Gracias.
Okay, okay. Dice la experiencia internacional que por lo general los inmigrantes tienen un espíritu más acentuado a nivel laboral por su necesidad de querer hacer una vida nueva en una tierra extraña.
So international experience says that migrants are spirited when they go to work because of their hope and impetus to have access to a better life.
Se dice que de cada 3 mujeres migrantes en este país, una ha sido víctima de abuso, sea tráfico, explotación laboral, agresión física, sexual, etc.
It is said that 1 out of every 3 migrant women here have been exposed to abuse, whether sexually or at the workplace.
Nosotros juntos podemos cambiar esas cifras porque detrás de cada mujer que podamos ayudar hay una familia que su vida mejorará.
All of us together can make a difference and change these numbers, because behind each of these women, there is one whole family whose life quality can be improved.
Cambiemos la historia, cambiemos la narrativa.
Let's change history. Let's change the narrative.
Gracias por su atención.
Thank you so much for your attention.
Muchísimas gracias, Lana y Fausto. Thank you both so much for the beautiful and heartfelt story. So one of the reasons why we chose to invite Lana to speak, not that she can't speak English perfectly well, but you can feel the difference when somebody is speaking from their heart language and how it sounds and how it feels. And we also want to give you the feeling of what it's like to be in a training when we do need to require consecutive translation because you have 2 parties that speak different languages, but how important that language is to understanding culture and the context. So we wanted to also give you all the experience of what it'd be like to work on this team with us together, as you're all being invited to do. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about Mediators Beyond Borders for those of you that don't know, although there's so many familiar faces on this call. I doubt that there's many that don't know about the work we've done around the world. So it's called Mediators Beyond Borders International, but it could also be called Mediators Beyond Borders Hyperlocal, because even though we work all around the world, we work in communities and we work with peace builders in those communities. And so even though it does this global spread and the global mindset that we bring to it, it's always in communities on the micro level. So that goes into a little bit what our values are and how we go about the work we do. Really important is that we're always invited into the spaces. We work in collaboration with local partners because there's always resources that can be built upon in the area. In this case, we have a home run with Cashew Gardens as a local partner. As you can tell from that video, they're already up and going and taking part of that. Being mindful of trauma and how that informs both our practice and who we work with and how it might be affecting them. We are interdisciplinary, multicultural, and multinational in our teams. So the teams that we bring together aren't just from the region, they're from different places. So we always can bring that global perspective into any of the work that we're doing. So along the same lines, when we talk about international conflict, it's a kind of big, heady work, but really all conflict stems from communities, specifically divided communities. Even international organizations, terror organizations, and all these pieces, where do they recruit from? Communities. And they're communities that we're in. And when I say we, I mean Rotarians. We are in all of these communities. And so when we look about what does resiliency come from? It comes from connected communities through dialogue to have shared meaning and shared values. And we're able to connect to those shared values for the work we're doing. It is incredibly difficult, however, and often when you think to call a mediator or someone to a conflict professional is after it's already too late. And in this case, we're really fortunate because there hasn't been widespread violence between the local Trinis and the Venezuelan communities. And this is an example of someone looking down the road and saying, but there could be. And not only could there be, what's the missed opportunity by not reaching out? And I know that Charlie's going to talk about this a little bit more, but switching that narrative to talk about what is the human potential. And this is something we started earlier in the day when talking about Juneteenth and starting to value individuals not by what work they can produce. Their value isn't about what work they can produce. It's so much more than that, and the perspective we can bring. And so what we'd like to do is explore a little bit of that with you all. And so what we're going to do is break you up into groups of 3. And Anna, if you could put the instructions in the chat for us. What we're going to do is you're going to be having triads. And I'm going to give you a minute to think about it first. But each one of you brings certain backgrounds, perspectives, skill sets. And so what I'd like you to do in your triads is choose who's going to go first and pick one listener each time. And you're going to share with your group for 1 minute. What do you bring? What perspective, what skill set do you bring to that triad? And you're going to have somebody just repeat back to you exactly what you said. And you're going to switch 3 times. I'll let you sort of self-govern, so keep an eye on the time, about a minute, until you'll have about 5-6 minutes to go through this whole exercise. And then we'll bring you all back. With that, do I have any questions on this exercise in particular? I guess you could stop me if there's been any major questions in the chat. We could take a second to field those now as well. And are we able to do the math on how many breakouts we need?
Yes, but Mark, I'm not seeing the question, so I don't know where it is here.
Okay. I'll do that. Okay, you have the breakout rooms ready to go?
Just 1 second longer, please. Okay, we have them ready now.
Great, thank you so much. Hopefully, despite the rather abrupt ending, you got to all learn about each other and in some ways learn about yourself in terms of what assets you all are bringing to the equation as we think about what do we need to build social cohesion with each other, and seeing each other beyond, again, what that work is that we produce and all the different aspects of our own experiences that we can bring to the equation. So with that, I'll hand it over to Charlie, if you would like to take over.
Thank you, Martin, and hello, everybody. Charlie Allen is my name, and I'm with the Institute for Economics and Peace. And I'll briefly talk to what Institute for Economics and Peace, IEP, brings to this partnership. Like Martin, I recognise many of the people who have joined the discussion, and I know many people are aware of the Institute for Economics and Peace, but certainly to capture our work very quickly, we're actually in the business of measuring peace. Why do we do that? It's pretty simple. It's very difficult to manage what you don't measure. So the Institute for Peace, Institute for Economics and Peace, sets about measuring peacefulness globally, albeit those measures are at macro level. But what my work is about taking that macro level research, taking that understanding of peacefulness and bringing it down to the micro level, working in community as does Martin with Mediators Beyond Borders. So if to be able to measure something, certainly need to start with a definition, and the Institute for Economics and Peace relies on two definitions, a negative definition and a positive definition. Often when people think of peace, they often their thoughts will turn to what is it that is missing. So, that absence of violence or absence of fear of violence. So really looking at peace from a negative perspective is really about counting the broken bits, if you like. And that's helpful. I don't suggest that's not a good exercise. It is, because it certainly gives us insight into which are the most peaceful countries, which are the least peaceful countries. But another way to measure peace and look at peace is look at it from a positive perspective. The definition that the Institute for Economics and Peace uses is the attitudes, institutions and structures that can create and sustain peaceful societies. So that is measuring peace by looking at what's working, what is the capacity and capability for a community or a country to be peaceful. So what we know from studying positive peace is we've been able to develop this conceptual framework, which and have developed these 8 pillars of positive peace. I guess there's many frameworks out there that's applied by peace builders globally, many good frameworks. I guess the point of difference with this framework is that it is built from empirical research, from studying the most peaceful communities and studying the most peaceful countries. And you can see there those 8 pillars. And what we know about these 8 pillars is they work together as a system. We also have been able to develop an understanding about the connection between higher levels of positive peace and other aspects of social well-being, economic well-being, and environmental well-being. We know that higher levels of positive peace is connected with a range of economic indicators, such as higher per capita income. We know that higher positive peace communities are more resilient. We know that higher positive peace countries and communities have better environmental outcomes, have higher measures of well-being across a range of indicators, including social cohesion, and also perform better against development goals. Higher positive peace countries perform better against the Millennial Development Goals and are performing better in achievement against the Sustainable Development Goals. So, as the Institute for Economics and Peace is certainly in the business of measuring peace, but my work is really about taking that positive peace framework and activating that positive peace framework. And there's a whole range of modalities that we use to activate positive peace. And you can see some of them listed here. But what I want to focus on is the positive peace workshops. And as our intention with this project is to use that positive peace approach through a workshop model to develop and reframe project application within the Cashew Gardens community. So certainly that positive peace approach is what IEP brings to this partnership. So to bear this out, I thought what I would do was talk to a recent case study. And this case study is Institute for Economics and Peace working with the great Lakes Agency for Peace and Development. This is a very recent case study, and I chose this case study because I think it is somewhat aligned with our intentions with the Cashew Gardens community. So the Great Lakes Agency for Peace and Development, African Australian diaspora community from, as the name suggests, from the countries around the Great Lakes region. Clearly, I'm talking about the Great Lakes regions of Africa and not the Great Lakes regions of North America. So the participants came together recently, and in this workshop, they developed their understanding of positive peace and developed their understanding of those 8 pillars of positive peace and how those 8 pillars work together to strengthen social systems. And really, if you're looking at a points of difference for that positive peace approach to peace building, it's certainly a self-determined approach involving community in developing their thinking about how to strengthen the social system, and also it is a strengths-based approach. So it's not starting from its deficit. So, well, what is the capacity? How can we build the strength of this community by focusing where the opportunities are to build strengths? And that's exactly what's happening in this workshop depicted in this few photos. The young men here from the Great Lakes community are delving into building a better understanding about sound business environment, being one of the 8 pillars of positive peace. This is not a photograph from the Great Lakes Community Workshop, but it's from another workshop, which was actually in Uganda. But I included this because it demonstrates that the model is very flexible and can be applied in any community. And here the community are deepening their understanding about how the 8 pillars work together as a social system, how the interconnectedness of the 8 pillars of positive peace build a strong social system. So, and this is once again with the Great Lakes community, you can see the 8 pillars there depicted in this very rough project plan. But this is from one individual who's just brainstorming about how they can strengthen the community, the Great Lakes community, by thinking about how they can incrementally shift those pillars to work together to strengthen the social system. So in this particular workshop with Glabid, the individuals went through that exercise of thinking through how they saw the application of pillars, and then they came together to develop a single project that they collaboratively developed. And I think it's really interesting that where they landed was thinking about employment pathways. What are employment pathways for how can they strengthen employment pathways for the Great Lakes community? And you can see here in this photo, they're brainstorming and bringing together their ideas as a community, thinking about how they can strengthen their social system. And this is where this particular community, the Great Lakes community, landed with their project. So, and there are three planks to their project that they developed. First of all, they saw that they could bring together young African Australian community members for what they titled youth employment groups. So this was really coming together to share their experiences, to brainstorm, to think about how they can grow together and support each other. And it's great diversity across the Great Lakes diaspora community in Western Sydney, where this project is centred. So, connecting that back to the pillars, that idea of coming together regularly as a youth employment group really supports those pillars of free flow of information, respecting the rights of others, and good relations with neighbours. And the diaspora community, as I said, are very diverse. People from Kenya, Eritrea, Somalia, Uganda, Congo. So those countries situated around the Great Lakes. They also saw that from those youth employment groups, they could develop, identify where they saw opportunities to develop their human capital through focused workshops and trainings. So, you know, the subtlety there is it's not about workshops and trainings being imposed upon the group. It's them identifying where they see their need and tailoring workshops to suit that need. And those workshops certainly link into those pillars of high levels of human capital, sound business environment, and low levels of corruption. They also, as a third plank to their project, they are undertaking to develop networking events, whether that's dinners or events where they can connect with the business community in the Western Sydney region to create linkages across business and across people of influence within their community. And that really taps into those pillars of equitable distribution of resources and a well-functioning governance. So you can see from this project, which is a real and funded project, it was driven by the individual participants. They used that pillar framework to identify how they could strengthen their community and turn it into real project outcomes. Now, and I think there's similarities with this project with the Great Lakes community and the project that is planned for the Cashew Gardens community. And you know, I just highlight, we went through an exercise just before talking about what is our human potential, and I think that really links to that pillar of higher levels of human capital. I suppose when we think about the project proposed with Cashew Gardens, it's really focusing on that pillar of higher levels of human capital. And I think that exercise we just went through highlights the whole range of how individuals bring through their human capital, bring worth to a community. And it's so much broader than just skills. And I think that was really borne out from Lana's story, where she talked about her diversity of experience, her culture, all of that, all of those aspects are human capital, a worth that Lana and other project participants bring to the Cashew Gardens project. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'll hand back.
Wonderful. I think the handoff is to Catherine.
Yes, thank you very much, Martin. And I believe, am I sharing screen too?
I'll share it for you.
Well, good afternoon and good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm speaking about changing the narrative. First, I would like to geographically locate where we are. In this project here, you'll see in the first map, let me just make it larger for you. Up here in this corner, if you can see my cursor, is it visible, Martin?
Nope, but I can, if you're guiding me, I can.
So in the world map in the corner there, you will see North and South America, and the boxed area shows the archipelago of Caribbean islands going from Miami down to Venezuela. And then if you move to the larger map and you follow it down to the very end, you will see the same picture up at the first picture. You will see Trinidad, in the first picture.
Mhm.
The first one.
Sorry, here.
Yes, so there's Trinidad, and you might be able to see how close it is. And it was actually part of the Venezuelan mainland. There was a tectonic shift, it broke away, and it has been an island on its own since then. It's a twin island republic, Trinidad and Tobago. And you can see in the next picture, Tobago is the holiday island, beautiful sands and beaches. And in the small little picture below, you will see the carnival costume. The small figure at the center is the person who plays the costume. And then we have absolutely huge, spectacular costumes, because Trinidadians are actually highly creative people. When we move to the last picture there, you can see the short distance that the boats have to travel on the north, where they come over to Port Spain area, a rather expensive place to live. So people generally begin to go south, and around the center there, a little north, there's Chaguanas, and close to Chaguanas is Freeport, where Cashew Gardens are based. And at the southern tip, the little town there that isn't marked is Icacos, and that's only 7 miles from Venezuela. So Venezuelans come over, they might be picked up when they arrive, and they would journey up through the country looking for work and accommodation. So that is the actual situation geographically. And although the countries are so close, they're really quite different. The successive colonizations shaped the dominant culture along British lines for Trinidad and along Spanish lines in Venezuela. There's also a long history of piracy, particularly in the fishing villages along the coastal areas. And there's also a happy history of relationships, particularly between Icacos and Cedros, and the bottom there of the map. In those fishing villages, there has been intermarriage and generations of intercultural cohesion from the margins in, outside of legal frameworks, and generally generating alternative communities in Trinidad. So when we go on then, we notice in the next slide that Trinidad is called the land of the hummingbird, an amazing little bird that actually puts out more energy than it takes in as it feeds in the air of tiny plants. And right next to it is a watermelon seed, and that there shows you the huge potential that I believe is dormant into this project that we're taking on. Cashew Gardens first came across Venezuelans in Trinidad when they were asked to be part of a toy drive because children are comforted by hugging a teddy bear. It makes them feel safe and calm with their story. And as we move on to the next slide, we will see that this is how we would imagine changing the narrative. It's a change of perspective, it's a transformation that happens. And so the story is told differently, and we would hope positively and peacefully, as we have just heard. And as we go on again, this is a beautiful little girl. She accompanied her parents on a boat trip from Turkey to Greece. They escaped in a rubber dinghy, and they made their way to Ireland, and they were part of a film that was created by Trassa O'Brien called Town of Strangers. This family retell the story. They reiterate what happened on that journey when they're putting their daughter to sleep. She was 3 at the time. She goes in the bath. She has a little plastic box there of her finger puppets. She hugs her teddy bear tight. They swish the water and remind her of how they were almost drowned. However, it's just squeals of laughter. It's spoken in soft tones. It's a little fairy tale type bedtime narrative, which she enjoys very much. And they have remodeled this story as an epic of their arrival, the story of their origin, of their original experience, and the imagined future of welcoming to a place that sometimes feels like heaven for them. They change their narrative powerfully, evoking emergent possibilities and releasing trauma. The family relives the transformation with each iteration of that story.
So listening to the silent flow of the emerging future is what our project is about. It's the desire to partner and to change the narrative in growing together. The whole film actually is a documentary of the imagination, with many scenes transcending ordinary filmmaking and taking us into dreaming, into imagining, into remembering. And we have seen and we have listened to Lana and Rosalind and Bernadine tell us their story of how they wish to build on their experiences. And I want to now just point to one other story. Lana was telling us about some of the exploitation that happens. And in the 6 years in Trinidad, we note that there have been 21,000 Venezuelan women and girls who have been smuggled and trafficked. That's the exploitative narrative, but we also have the dreamer's narrative. In the dreamer's narrative, we have Eldrick Sella. He came to Trinidad in 2018 with his girlfriend. He had hoped to be an Olympic boxing champion. When he left to seek asylum in Trinidad, he felt he left his dreams behind. His dad taught him boxing to defend himself in Venezuela, and he found that helpful in Trinidad too. In Trinidad, he won a fight. He got his story on the media, and he was able to get an international Olympic narrative, Olympic scholarship. He's on his way to Tokyo. And if we can play the film there from the middle, we can see that he felt that he's going to go there and he's going to win, and he's going to do so for Trinidad, for Venezuela, and for all refugees. Over 5 million people have left Venezuela.
Be able to go to the Olympics. When I leave Venezuela, as I told you, I thought I was going to leave everything. And I got the approval to be in the program. I feel I was back on my path, on what I do. I feel alive again. Have discipline to wake up, go and train. Push yourself in the training. That's the big challenge. The big challenge against me, against myself. So that is my biggest challenge right now. I feel if I make it to the Olympics for a bigger purpose, for me, for you, for he, for everybody in the world, I will go to the Olympics and win for Venezuela, for Trinidad and Tobago too, and for all the refugees around the world.
And that takes up the point that Rosalind often reminds us of, that what they're hoping to do in Cashew Gardens is not just to do a project for themselves and their small group, but really to produce a model project that would be available and helpful and sustainable and can be reproduced in many places around the world. And I would like to finish by saying that what I bring to the project is an emphasis on insight, and we have that in the last slide. And insight is the smallest fractal of transformation. While it might occur in a fraction of a second, it can also take years to occur. From experience to understanding, verifying value, deliberating, evaluating, and coming to a decision is what causes an insight, and it's brought about by curious questions. So we have many curious questions ourselves in this project. For example, how will we get the local business community to want to be part of this project with us, as they're already struggling to gain support? How do we engage the energy of Venezuelans and Trinidadian diaspora in partnership with us? How do we excite the imagination of the Rotary Club and the global Rotary family to join us? How do we harvest the skills of the Venezuelan community? And also, I mean, we have many other very interesting questions for ourselves, but we would like to put some of these questions to you in the breakout room. We're not really looking for too many answers. We're looking for curious questions that will lead to insights. So if you've got any ideas, we'd be happy to be informed by them. We will also be able to join you as facilitators in the room, and we're looking forward to your thoughts on getting involved in this project with us. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Catherine. So just to reiterate instructions for the breakouts, so we're going to get groups of 4, and I think most groups will have a facilitator with you. And the idea in the amount of time we have, which will go for about 8 minutes, is to come up with as many questions as possible that you think could help guide our projects, help inform, help us think differently about all of the values we've shared today. And so if we're successful, we come away with dozens of questions that we get to ask ourselves and our future partners, and potentially inspire you all to be partners and join our team with us. So that's the goal, is to come up with as many questions as possible. We don't have the answers for them, but would really be a worthwhile adventure. So any questions before we head off into breakouts this time? Okay. None. And then facilitators, if you wouldn't mind copying those questions in the chat before you go into the breakout rooms, it might be helpful for some folks who join late to be able to still see the questions and what we're looking to do. Great. Anna, do you want to send us off? Those chat rooms never seem long enough, do they? Not when we're just getting started. So I wanted to take a moment to harvest this wonderful information, both from the first round and the second round. And so I'll put in the chat the Mentimeter, and really wanted to encourage you all to engage with that, because again, one of our measurements for success is if we walked away with a bunch of questions. I know I'll reflect some great questions that Bernadine started, which was, how many youth are you looking to engage with this project? Which begs the second question. If you plan on engaging youth for this project, how do you plan on engaging youth? And if you don't ask that second question, I can probably answer what the end up number for the first question will be. So questions like that, we're really looking forward to it. We have just a couple minutes here. I do want to make sure we respect the ending on time. Anyone have a particularly good question you'd like to share with the full group? And then I'll hand it back over to Susan to close this out. Rudy, I bet you're a good question asker.
We had a very good question, our group.
Okay.
It came from Chuck. I think he might like to ask it himself.
Oh, well played. Okay, I guess I will. Well, how do we engage the larger Rotary family? And I think the way we do that is through storytelling. So how do we capture more stories about what's going on the ground there, and get that to the Rotary clubs? I've been in Rotary 20 years. I knew very little about this until today. And so I'm a little embarrassed by that. And I think other Rotarians would be too. And so how do we hear those stories, or how do we help get those stories out? Because I was particularly excited about the story of the boxer. I just think that was a remarkable story. And so how do we get that out, and what would be the ask as we get that story out?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's very aspirational. We will tell you that it is our newest role that we have as partnership storyteller. is a designated role, and we're looking to create one of a partnership storyteller for each of our projects, so that it is something, because it is that important, as you point out, Chuck, and so making sure it's a dedicated role that we have. So time is up, and I do want to hand over to Susan to close us out in a good way. Susan, will you take us home?
I will, and I want to thank Martin for running this right on time. We have 1 minute, so thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you to all of the people who came aboard to listen. If you want to hear these stories and you have a club that you think we could present our stories to, please let us know. I've put things in the chat. And we are looking for team members, and we are looking always for funds. So you know how to get a hold of us, and you know our global grant number. And yes, please be in touch, and thank you all so much for the wonderful conversations. As Martin said, the breakout rooms should have been twice as long because it was a really great conversation. So thank you, everybody. We have the dream team, by the way, so if you'd like to be part of the dream, join us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Important request for the global grant number.
Probably drop.
2683, right?
I have a link someplace I can probably drop in the chat for the.
Roslyn is our expert on the grant number.
It's a 92683.
2683?
92683. Sorry, G2683.
Yeah, I'll put the that's the matching grant. Here, I got it right here. Put it for everybody here. If you want to follow that on the matchinggrants.org, that's the link right there in the chat.
See you soon, Vicki. Thank you so much for your support, and great to see my colleagues from Chula.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. Rudy, thank you for
Very
joining us.
informative. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone. That was great.
Yeah, thanks, Carol, for showing up.
Martin, you're a rock star.
Ah, too kind.
And it's not over yet, right?
Oh no, we still got to close this bad boy out.
Rock on.
You're doing pretty well for 24 hours.
I haven't slept yet.